Quebec's Court of Appeal says a lawsuit against Facebook can go ahead. The plaintiffs are Quebecers who claim the social media site discriminated against them when it came to job and housing ads. The CBC's Elizabeth Thompson first investigated this issue back in 2019. She joins me now live from Ottawa with more. So, Elizabeth, what specifically does the suit allege?
Well, all of this goes back to 2019. We did a story using what was then ProPublica's Facebook ad collector, and we looked at ads that were being placed for jobs and things like that. And we were able to document that a lot of ads were out there that were targeted to people, for example, who were 18 to 45 or 18 to 35. So if you were looking for a job and you were 50 years old, for example, you wouldn't even see those ads. And a few days after we did that story, this class action, which had been in preparation for a while beforehand, the authorization to file a class action was filed in Quebec Superior Court. And what it alleges is that a number of Quebecers were not able to see these ads because they were being micro-targeted, either on the basis of age or on the basis of things like gender, because some of the ads we did see, for example, had been micro-targeted to men or to women, so if you were the wrong gender, you wouldn't see that ad. They alleged that these people were discriminated against, and under Canadian law and the Quebec Charter of Rights, you can not restrict who sees a job ad based on things like how old that person is, or their gender, their race, their religion, qualities like that. So this was launched. The Quebec Superior Court heard the case. They felt that the description of the class was too wide, so they didn't authorize the class action. The lawyers took it to the Quebec Court of Appeal. It decided that yes, this was a legitimate question that the court should take a look at, and they allowed them to restrict the definition of who belongs to this class. So, for example, it's Quebec residents, but it's not, for example, residents of Ontario or Alberta or BC who would be affected by this. The lawyer in the case, Audrey Bochter, estimates that depending on how the court rules, this could be a case that might be worth up to $100 million.
And we know, of course, that Facebook could appeal. What's next? Or what should we expect next on this?
Well, that is the big question, is whether Facebook is going to appeal to the Supreme Court. Now, remember that this is at the authorization stage. The class action has to be authorized by the court before it can go forward. If Facebook appeals, then this will be the Supreme Court that will have to decide whether this is something that is of significant interest to all Canadians and a new point in law. Because, for example, it's been against the law for decades to discriminate against people based on these kinds of criteria. However, social media and on the world of online has added whole new twists to all of these questions, what's happening below the surface in the online world. So we will look to see if Facebook will appeal to the Supreme Court. They have 60 days to make that decision. They're not saying yet what they're going to do. If they don't appeal, then it goes back to the Quebec Superior Court to hear the case on the merits. And so that is a case that's going to be watched by a lot of people because it is potentially breaking new ground in terms of the responsibility of online platforms for what goes on their platform. But it also raises some bigger questions as well. We have Sonia Solomon from the Center for Media Technology and Democracy at McGill University points out that there are a lot of other questions here and questions about transparency. Here's what she had to say.
It is so important to demand transparency and disclosure from these platform companies so that we know precisely how this data is being used and collected and then ultimately used to target us.
So this is something that could also affect a lot of other online companies. Other companies are so successful and raise so much money because they have that ability to select who sees the ads or to target it to particular audiences. And interestingly, this also comes at a time where there are a lot of debates in Parliament over what should be the rules that govern online companies and social media companies, and should they have more responsibility for what goes on in their platforms, and should they be accounting more to Canadians for the transparency and on questions such as privacy.
Thanks for this, Elizabeth. That is the CBC's Elizabeth Thompson in Ottawa.